Therapy Lounge, pre-shot was softly spoken. Difficulties, but we finally got on.
Baby, was that rough? I was in my car trying to do the podcast.
Oh my God. Softly spoken. Thank you so much for being so professional and being patient with this anchor, because that's what it feels like now. It's like we throwing an anchor and it's not letting us on when we need to get on.
But you
But
know what? I think that's awesome because this is just a testament to how the universe works. Stuff doesn't always work out right the way we think it should.
yeah, I
Always
agree
stuff.
with you.
This is exciting because it's
Yes,
life, right?
this is realism right here. You know, so softly spoken. How do you feel this evening? Yeah, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing wonderful. I just came from out to dinner. I had about 3 margaritas. I am amazing. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Tell the listeners what our topic is about tonight.
This is so awesome. So we're going to talk about how we as Black people, African Americans, whatever you want to call us, depending on how we depict ourselves in the media and to social media to the world. You know what I mean? Because last week we talked about in terms of how the media portrays us. So I figured this week we can talk about how we portray ourselves.
Right,
Which is
right. Because if you can hear me spoken, sometimes um we post a lot of negative stuff on social media
Mhm.
just to get attention, or some people just look for any type of attention, far as if it's not sending a positive message. So sometimes we also afflict wounds on ourselves
Mhm.
as individuals or as groups. So give some I give the listeners some ideas on like what you might have saw on social media, or what's your take on the things that probably people post on social media.
I don't really do social media, so I might go on my Facebook page once every 3 months. So I'm really not looking at people's posts, but what you see is like what's called ratchet TV, right? And
Yes.
all of us playing the ratchet TV on a certain level, and yet I'm getting ready to get vulgar. I apologize, but you have been listening know who I am and how I am. So
That's
Black
right.
women don't want to be depicted as the angry bitch. But then we feed into that the Love and Hip Hops and the Real Housewives. Why, if we don't want to be depicted as that? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, great point.
See
Yes.
people, it's like that you think that your 2-year-old knows how to twerk. And I'd be more impressed if your 2-year-old can read. You know what I mean? Why do we keep condoning this same behavior? Because we condone it, people keep doing it.
I do agree
And,
with you.
and then it's like you put your children on social media in diapers. Do you know how many pedophiles are out there? And if someone your child, it's a huge problem. But you've posted this for the world to see. You have to respect your child first before anyone else will. It's not cute. And like I've
It's
said to
not.
people, as Black people, we don't have the luxury of certain things that other graphics have. We're too far behind the ball.
Way too far behind the ball. Absolutely. We almost like the last of the bottom,
The
you
last
know.
rung on the ladder.
Yeah, that's so true. And I agree with you though, softly, because it seems like a lot of people love attention. They want some type of second minute. They want 2 minutes of fame. They want to go viral, and through the atmosphere always is always sometimes can be negative. It's never people will hit that like button when it's negative or ratchet, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's something positive and uplifting, you probably lucky if you get one or two likes. And I noticed that a lot because I'm always well, because I'm on social media due to my business and everything, and I see a lot of craziness. It seems like people like whether it's sex, drugs, or violence, people will gravitate to that quicker than they can gravitate to someone that's speaking some truthfulness or some uplifting or some nourishing words of wisdom, food for thought and stuff like that. So I've seen it. This is the critical problem that we're having right now because the blind is misleading the blind,
Mm-hmm.
and people close their ears to words of wisdom continuously. So there's a problem right there, and I feel like at this point you have to still reach the young. You have to dissect the ones who that's that's the older generation, whether they in their 30s or 40s or 50s. You have to dissect the ones who just don't even care at this point, don't even care. And it's important for those who have a voice that want to speak truthfulness and want to speak some inspiration to try to grab the youth, the young people. And I don't want to kind of depict just for the young people, maybe an older person that do want to kind of listen or change their life or something. That it's enough for everyone to go around. But when you start seeing the same negativity over and over and over and over again, it kind of sends a bad image. It kind of like you want to put every black person in the same gumbo. You want to put a black person in the same pot,
Right.
instead of just we're there. We're a lot of us are very different. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of us is on a different vibration. Some is on a negative energy. Some is on a positive energy. All black people are not the same. Everybody's not a brother or sister because they choose to live a trife life or just ignorance or don't want to learn or don't want to know. So what's your take on other situations,
You
softly spoken?
honestly, I don't know how we got here because a lot of things are still, of course, affecting us. And we can't keep using that as an excuse. So what I see is out in the world, I see there's a lot of children who aren't being parented. And
True.
then keep in mind too that a lot of, unfortunately, crack ravaged our neighborhoods.
Yes.
Children who didn't parent them, they might have been in foster care. They might have been, raised by their grandparents that were tired. And so
Hmm.
it's like you have a whole bunch of people out here who were never parented. In fact, it's kind of this thing of, even though I was never a foster child and I wasn't adopted, but I recently realized that I wasn't parented. I was provided for. I was provided very well for. But there's a difference in providing for a child and parenting a child. And so,
And
so many of us grow up with low self-esteem and not knowing our worth. And I think we play into what society has told us that we were supposed to, or what they have pitted us to be. I think in a certain limit, it's like we've been restricted so long, and maybe that's out. I don't know the answer. But um, I think conversations need to be having because our children are suffering more and more. I'm seeing people who have never been told I love you. And we talked about,
right.
we
Yes, we have. Yeah.
so as a people that our emotions have kind of shut down. It is. I don't know why we keep pushing of the black man being, these streets and a woman and everything else. Because maybe that's what we were taught that that's what the black man was supposed to be, because he was needed to work the farms and to have my men. Didn't mean he had to raise those babies, but they were a lot of babies.
Right. Do you feel like your upbringing did that affected you? You don't have to tell your listeners if it's, I mean, if this is too, I'm asking you something that's kind of personal. Did you had your mother and your father in your life? Do you feel as though you kind of was affected too, in certain situations, your upbringing, as far as in the adolescent years going into the adulthood? Do you feel like that certain things affected you too as
I
well?
mean, absolutely.
I don't want to say. I hope I'm not getting off topic.
Well, no,
You know how you say,
yeah, I get telling my story because me allowing myself to be vulnerable will help someone. So
yes,
my story is my story. I have to own it in order to heal from it, right? I have to admit this stuff
mhm,
in order to move past it. All had traumatic experiences. None of us escaped. So for
right,
my mom died when I was 16 months old. So, and my 56, and I'm the only girl. And so I know why he chose to have my aunt and uncle raise. It was the best decision for me when you look back on life. But of course, you're going to suffer some abandonment issues because, I lost my mom and my never knew any of my grandparents. They passed away before I was born. So again, money was never an object as a kid. And so that's how love was shown to me. So when I grew up, become an adult woman, again, being from men who were much older and down south men, they only cared about families. They weren't nurturers. And I had more men in my family than women. I had to learn, and I'm still learning as an adult, how to nurture myself,
right,
parenting yourself,
right.
you know.
That's powerful. That's so powerful, softly spoken. And you mentioned earlier about how this goes all the way back far as the drugs in our community. We talking about maybe from like the 1952 to next year, 2022. We talking almost 70 years of that infliction that is still going on in our community, in the
Mhm.
Black community. And we say that again softly.
It's in our DNA.
Yeah, yeah, and it's unbelievable. Like things seem like it's still the problem is still there. A lot of us in the inner city, whether it's in Philly or New York or Baltimore or Chicago or LA, Cleveland, we have certain things in the inner cities that people there's really no deep community,
Yeah.
because there's seems so much anger, there's so much division, there's so much, like you said, riddled with drugs and crime and the I felt like the more better the true education and stuff like that. That's another topic for another day, for another story. But there's still problems that still exist in the inner cities of America. And you know, it's an unfortunate situation. I feel as though that there's a lot of things that could should have been changed that was ignored. And when you take a lot of the recreation centers out of every inner city, you bring in more of the negative energy because you take away certain things, resources for the young youth that can benefit from it. So it's so many
It's
things.
layers.
So yeah, yes. I just wanted to express that to my listeners, that wherever you listen, wherever city you listen from, you kind of understand what I'm speaking of, that that there's still problems in the inner city that sometimes still be ignored. But at the end of the day, we don't need nobody to hold our hands. We need to be responsible as men and women for the young so they can start seeing when we start showing positivity. Not everybody is bad, but you have some bad people that don't care, that may have mental illness. There's 100 things that could be wrong in the city. that could be fixed.
Hmm.
So if you know, if you can identify with that, to my listeners, if you can identify that, you're our clients first. So if you can identify the problem that's happening in your city, it's important to kind of like still like notice what's going on, and kind and you be a leader and lead by an example. But everyone is not going to want to that come to the come to the forefront with you,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But to everyone that's listening, we can encourage you with some words of wisdom and some solutions that we probably, whatever we know, we'll pass that on.
Hmm. Because
So
it
yes.
takes a very strong person to discover who they are, and it is it's a heart-wrenching journey, but it's a journey that's
Oh
worth
yeah.
it. It takes a lot of courage
Yes.
to stand up and to be yourself amidst everyone else who looks different, sounds different. I will blast my country music riding through the hood because I never know if one kid in the neighborhood is going to hear that and say, oh, you know what? She can do it. I can do it too.
Right. And that's what it's about. It's different. You kind of, you want to show something different. You sharing something that's, whether it's through music or through art or through whatever you might have an interest that probably can kind of inspire a young person to say,
Mhm.
wow, man, I might want to just kind of figure out which artist this is. I like this song or something like that.
Right.
Or you know, and plus, like, it's like you being different, you in your own lane, softly spoken. So that's very important when you show someone something different, whether it's traveling or whether it's just facing your fears, like getting out the inner city, because most people never got that chance
Right.
that they get, they never got a chance to travel, whether it was going to Arizona or Tennessee or Virginia or any places in the world, Hawaii or other places, to kind of expand your mind, your horizon. A lot of folks, a lot of young men and women never got that chance. That's no longer with us, or is incarcerated. So I also want to say, stay strong to the men and women who's incarcerated. You
Yeah.
got some that might be on a podcast too. You really be surprised, when they have some downtime where they can be able to listen
Hmm.
to still. So I want to try to inspire. I want to encourage young and old people, because you're never too old to like kind of get some words of wisdom from anyone that's younger than you. You can learn from young and old. So
Yes. That saying from the mouth of babes
yeah,
sometimes means
yes,
something to me. And I'm like, how do you know that? They're born wild.
right, right. And that's, and we have to, what I want to say, sometimes it takes courage for people to say, you know what, if I go on social media, I see somebody post some crazy stuff on Instagram, whether they posting something negative on Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, or any TikTok, or any other social media platform, and if it feels like it's not good for your soul,
Hmm.
uh don't even look at it. Find people who speak poetry that's positive. Find upcoming poetry artists, or artists that's in the trying to get into the industry, whether they indie artists. Find people that can motivate you, because we're being put in the one box that all black people are negative, evil, wicked, or just got attitudes, and that's not true.
Hmm.
That's a lot of the mainstream media can mislead people. Social media can mislead people. You have brilliant people who live just in the inner city. They may not live in the suburbs, and you can get some words of wisdom from someone who's way older than you, that's living in the inner city. But you know, if if one person don't look at something negative, a post on social media, and want to look for